This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Green-Robed Narcisssus Wuyi Cliff Tea session. We have a lot to talk about today. This is a wonderful tea. This is the fourth in a series of 6 cliff teas. This one is very distinctive. We'll spend some time talking about it. Before we go there, I said I'd talk more about the trip. So I do want to start off talking about the trip. One of the things, well, actually, there's two things, so I'll keep myself confined in a box. One of the things that was interesting to us was when we went to a tea shop not too far from Mount Fuji. The tea owner did us a favor because once she understood we were in the tea business, she rolled out for us samples of the various grades of matcha. And this was really interesting to us because people over time have come in and said, oh, yeah, you can get great matcha from this place and that place, including 7-Eleven. And so she lined up about 6 or 7 samples. So let me authoritatively say to you, the answer is no. You cannot get great matcha unless it's ceremonial grade. Ceremonial grade is the best type of matcha, the most tasty, the most interesting. In regards to that also, and I alluded to this last week, we were shocked when a CEO of a nutraceutical in Japan essentially said, now everybody's very polite in Japan, and you ask them a question and you get 10,000 words, and you have to listen to each one of those words because each one of those words is pointing to an important point. The important point was they don't believe, even if something is labeled organic in Japan, unless it has been grown somewhere else, and unless it has undergone other checking. And so by checking, USDA, the European Union type of checking and certification, they just don't believe it. And they also believe that pesticides and other things are being used for all the things that claim to be a nutraceutical in Japan. So it took me a few days to actually let that sink in because all these years I've been going to places in the US pre-Sophie's. I used to drink some matcha and I went to places and you always saw these type of claims. And I didn't think much about it then, but I'm thinking a lot about it these days because over the years, we've focused on trying to eat more and more cleanly, to try and present things to you more and more cleanly. This is really important, I think, in the long run, and matcha in particular. So it sounds like I'm obsessed or somehow grabbed by matcha. Let me explain why, and then I won't cover this topic again. What is matcha? Matcha is a process invented in China ages ago, and essentially it means one thing. You take a green tea and you get it fine. How you get it fine is your business. You steam it, put it in a cake, chip it off, pester,
Mortar and pestle.
say again.
Mortar and pestle.
What?
Mortar.
Mortar and pestle it. Yes, thank you. There's all sorts of things you can do to get it into a fine powder. But let's think about a fine powder of anything. Is that more concentrated in everything it delivers to you? The answer is yes. So if it's unclean coming in, as an input, is the output, because it's more concentrated, all of a sudden very clean? The answer would be no, I don't think so. I think quite the opposite. So that's one of the reasons, because we've had a hankering to have matcha on the board in here, really good matcha, because we've experienced really good matcha. And we just aren't feeling comfortable with that concept yet. Although, with the Chinese getting into the business, we think we'll end up being very comfortable with that. So that's another point I wanted to emphasize, because it's things that really stood out to me on this trip that were not expected. So let's turn our attention to China and cliff tea. So the second thing I wanted to point out was the Wuyi Mountains is both a physical UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's an intangible cultural site. It's a dual site. There are 4 of them in China. And let's think about what those 4 are. 2 out of the 4 won't make any sense to you unless you've been to China. So Mount Tai is one of them. Yellow Mountains, because you've heard us, we've taken customers, is another one. And Umeshan, you've heard of this before because we have tea from there, heirloom. So they come from one of the 4 dual mountains, dual cultural heritage sites in China. The Wuyi Mountains is the 4th one. 1999, since 1999, it's had this classification. So this place is a special place. So those of you who went on the trip and you saw the Yellow Mountain, and yesterday we were reminded, because Terry was in here showing us pictures, the airport line pictures or the custom line pictures where you have to line up, for X number of minutes, sometimes hours, just to get on a bus. Oh, and you think I'm home free, and then you get up to the next line, which is 6 or 7 miles later, but you've had a beautiful drive through the mountains, so you're really relaxed when you get to the next line, which is even longer than the first line. And that's the line to get on the gondola. And then you have a 10-minute gondola ride where you're thinking, okay, now I'm home free. And then you get out and face the real line, which is these thousands of people going up to the top, or it's not the top, but this special pine tree in the Yellow Mountains. And so that's the intensity of the experience at the Yellow Mountains. So I ask you this, are the Wuyi Mountains equally intense? No, they are not. Even though it's this very famous spot, there are tourists. Don't get me wrong, there are tourists, but it's not at all the intensity, because even the Chinese don't have that same sacred sense about the Wuyi Mountains, though they should, because in reviewing what we've talked about the Wuyi Mountains, it's one of the only places where Confucianists, Taoists, and Buddhists, they all got along together. And why? It was the tea, man. Because you have this tea. How can you be mad, even if the guy is philosophically in left field? How can you be mad if you're drinking Scarlet Robe? Okay, bro or sis. Yeah, you and I don't agree, but we do agree that this tea is great. So that's the other thing I wanted to point out about the Wuyi Mountains in this area. Over and over again, new people who come here, yeah, I want oolong tea. Okay, what do you want? There's something, ting tong or ding dong or some sort of tea that I've heard about. Oh, you mean from Taiwan? Yeah, maybe. Or Ali Shan. And that's fine. That's lighter and it's really good. So let's not say that I'm saying anything bad about it. It is really good. It's not the birthplace. And the process for doing that tea takes no more than about a month. Let's go to the Wuyi Mountains, the birthplace of oolong tea. Let's talk about how long that process is. They pick in April, usually later in April. They're done around May 1st or so. Oh, they're done picking, is what I mean. Let the process begin. And that process takes, realistically, if you're any good, if you're not doing shortcuts, you're not an LCSer, it's going to take you 7 months. 7 months to process versus 30 days. And by the way, the 30-day process basically is set in 1 day. Oh, somebody's going to argue with me. 36 hours, man. 48 hours. That's fine. You catch the point. It's a simpler process. It's less involved than a 7-month process. So this actually touches on what we're going to talk about today, aside from Green-Robed Narcisssus itself. We're going to talk about what makes that flavor so unique. Why are the cliff teas so unique? I've been asked this question many times. Why is it 1 year we go and say ebullient? Remember, for those of you who've had ebullient, that was championship tea. You've all heard of Rapture, another championship tea. You've heard over the years, Hollowed Fortress, Dreamscape. Everybody's heard of Dreamscape. Why is it from year to year that it's almost never a repeat with a championship tea? Maybe the farmer's using a different varietal. That would be false. Maybe the farmer forgot to plant it at the same time and didn't take really good notes. That would be false. Do varietals matter? They absolutely matter. Is it the only thing that matters for championship teas? The answer is no. Varietal is only part of the story. And in fact, over the next 3 weeks, you're going to hear all the things which are part of the story. And they revolve around something called metabolites. You know, I must be telling the truth because, I got that 8-letter word in. And metabolites are outputs of things from in the leaf, of things. What sort of things? Lipids, polyphenols, amino acids, all of the elements which are in the leaves, and as they undergo process. And what is process? Let's define process carefully. It starts the year before when it's growing. So with that varietal, what's it taking out of the soil? What's it taking out of the physical terroir? How about the weather part of the terroir? Is that affecting anything? Is that affecting the internal constituents? It absolutely is. And this is important. So when we talk about Green-Robed Narcissus in China, and you guys are all advanced. You've heard me talk about cliff teas before. So I'm going to talk about some aspects that I never talk about. So in China, there's a characteristic name that they give to describe the flavor profile of Green-Robed Narcissus. And this name will fool the heck out of you. Because if you don't speak Chinese, you'll think, that's odd. They say it's Cong. It's more Cong. And you're thinking, let's see, let me reach into my ancestral memory, because somewhere in there must be that Chinese term. And if I remember correctly, and I'm trying to remember the character, that's like bushy. It's bushy? No, So you've heard of rising phoenix in here and transcendent rebirth. Those come from another part of China. They come from Canton province, and they're called dancong, single bush, so to speak. But there's an implication as soon as you have that word. In the Wuyi Mountains, they call those varieties Mingcun. And the Ming means famous, stand out. And the Cun still has that general meaning of bush. But when they say Cun flavor, every one of you should have a blank look on your face. Because what is Cun flavor? Is it rising phoenix flavor? Mingsu, famous Wuyi Mountain flavor? No, they're speaking about a specific flavor profile. So today, when we taste Green-Robed Narcissus, they typically talk about it as very Cun. So how about a little bit of bamboo? How about a little bit of reed? How about some glutinous rice? And oh, by the way, they always use an adjective when they're describing Green-Robed Narcissus. They say floral. I don't have to define floral. You're all on board with floral, except some of you are going to say to me, I love you, John. You're always talking about this thing and that thing. It's interesting. But this isn't floral, this is fruity. Remembering that we're using the same flavor. We're tasting approximately the same thing. Although next week I'm going to prove to you that we're not. But for this week, let's say we are. We're tasting approximately the same thing, and we're using different names, different nomenclature for what we're tasting. But we're all in that similar ballpark. And it won't be an exception with the Green-Robed Narcissus. So, varietal matters. Location matters. Weather matters. How about picking? Let's say you have clumsy pickers. There are no clumsy pickers. So let's not say that. Let's say you're a highly skilled picker. One bud, 3 leaves, 1 bud and 2 leaves, whatever you're assigned to do. And you're doing it really fast and you get back to the factory. Let me ask you this question from your experience. You have to answer now from experience. Even with perfect pickers, since they're not robots, and none of them have an AI in their name, is the pick going to be precisely the same from picker to picker? Answer is no. So that's an influence. As small a thing as that can make a difference. Yes, it passes muster. Comes in, they look, yeah, it passes muster. But is it as good? Are they all completely uniform? No, they're not completely uniform. So when we're talking about championship tea, there's not very much of it made. And so you don't have thousands of tons as a sample size so that you can, even the flavor in quotes. You're talking for championship teas, 100 pounds at most, many times only 50 pounds, something like that. That's a really, really small sample size. So every factor that's going into that sample size counts. Now, for Green-Robed Narcissus, what we got, there was probably 1,500 pounds produced. Green-Robed Narcissus didn't win a prize that year. It's from within the mountain, but it didn't win a prize. And it's very good. So there's a larger sample size. So it would fit more into a typical characterization of it as being Cun, as having that type of flavor. Now, normally I know the rules. I really do know the rules. And it seems like today I violated it because usually I try not to influence what you're going to tell me back when we go into the tasting. And I'm still telling you, I've given you history and I've given you other people's opinion. Do I trust those other people? Yeah, I trust those other people. But you know what? I live with you. I trust your opinion as well. So don't be constrained by what I tell you. Be aware that this is what they say in China. You want to know what they say in China. There's one other flavor which I can't describe to you. And the reason I can't describe it is it's a leaf that you've never had that they call it in China. So let's not worry about that. The other thing that they will say typically with this tea, and again, as part of the tune appellation, is umami, slight hint of umami. Yeah.
You've talked about the pickers, and that makes me wonder about the relatively small universe of trained, experienced pickers. And over time, just, who trains them? Do they train each other? And there must be people who are sought after by different farmers for their precision and skill. And I hadn't thought about that before.
That's a great question. So this question is, let's go back to the beginning. The beginning from the life of the tea itself is with the picker, isn't it? I mean, the real beginning is the growth, but then with human interaction, it's the picker. Are the pickers from 500 years ago, are they picking in approximately the same way? They are. Pickers are, it's a lineage work. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Father to son, mother to daughter, because you get both genders picking. And typically, well, I would say it's probably 60-40 female and male. And the Wuyi Mountains are really an exception because usually when you're going to green tea areas, there's maybe even more concentration of women. The reason it's different in the Wuyi Mountains is the Wuyi Mountain a plain? Wuyi Mountains. It's in the mountains. It's rough up there. I don't mean it's dangerous, but the paths are narrow. You got to carry this stuff down on your back. The runners have to get to the factory as fast as possible, so no excess oxidation, all of these things. It's hard. And that's why you have more men than in other areas. And so when I say it's a lineage job, generation after generation teaches the next generation to pick. Village by village. So you have villages that are picker villages. And the question becomes, is the farmer just going through their task and, blue sky and, oh, I wonder what village I should go? No, they establish friendships with these villages and they pre-negotiate with the villagers. Come on down. I'm going to give you X amount per kilo or whatever it is, whatever unit it's going to be. And they know the families and they know what's going on. China is a relationship country. Why is it we build all these relationships? Do you think it's just about in the purchase of tea or the acquisition of tea? Every step is a relationship. And so the relationship with the pickers, you know their kids, you know their histories, you know when they're sick. Oh no, so-and-so is called in sick or is sick. And these are problems because it's a relationship and you trust these people to bring back. You have itinerant pickers. And this is an interesting thing because over the years, we start to see a flow of these. These are people who they have the skill of picking, but because picking, especially with the Wuyi teas, is a one-time-a-year piece of work, isn't it? And so you're basically busy from March through April, basically. 10 more months, you do other things. And so you become, especially if you go to the city, you then become an itinerant picker. Some pickers for other reasons. In other words, they're aged out in the city. Oh, that sounds terrible. They're retired from their city work. Let's put it that way. They still have the skills to pick. They still want to be doing something. What is it they want to be doing? This is the interesting thing. Is it that they want to be picking? No. The answer is yes, but no. I want to be with my friends. We're going as a village, and we're out there and we're singing and we're telling stories and having friendship that we've had for many, many years. This is the untold story of the success of the Wuyi teas. Get the pickers and make sure that year by year you don't have to worry. For those of you who went to China, we put everybody in the fields. That was a fun experience. That was a very fun experience. And then at the end, we gathered everybody's up and we poured everybody's into one basket. And everybody had been out there for an hour or something. And you look, and this is the leaves. It's not the dried leaves, so it's going to go down quite a bit once it's processed. There was barely anything in the basket. That's why you have to have experienced pickers. When you tell them, go to such and such a field, the one where it's a northern exposure, and pick starting at 9 a.m. this morning, they'll find the field, they'll find it together. They'll come back with all the proper picks. You aren't going to have to sort through that stuff. You idiot. This isn't a tea leaf. This is insects, or this is some other plant. You're not going to have to do any of that because these are experienced pickers. Great question. Great question. So the physical terroir matters as well. The physical being the pickers. That's the human element. And when you are trying to do high quality tea, all of these things matter. Flavor wise, they have an influence. If you pick and you're not feeling well and you have a heavy pick and you squeeze things too hard and it oxidizes early, at the end of the day, you and I as drinkers won't detect that. Will the farmer know? Will they ever? They'll look, what is this batch? What heavy-handed person picked this batch? By the way, they have tags for all the batches, and before they put them together, they look at them individually. 2 reasons. The most important reason is they want to pay the people. Okay, so the picker has proof, I picked X amount. Farmer has proof, yeah, you picked X amount, I promised X amount of money. That's just half the equation, but it's a very important half. This is called 2/3 of the equation. The last third is farmer goes through, ooh, I really like this picker. Or, ooh, we're going to have some re-education. By this time in the Wuyi Mountains, there's no re-education unless you're training new people. So this is part of what that question was. How do new people come? And it's not easy because if as a youngster you decide, yeah, I want to do that, you got to practice. And usually you have practice areas where you can pick, they judge, ooh, that was ugly. And here's why. Go out there again. Do it faster. Do it this way. I don't want to see any of those reds. Too many bug-bitten leaves there. What's wrong with this picture in terms of picking? So extensive training before they're allowed to go ahead and become official pickers. And so each step requires extensive training. It's a long train with many cars, and everything needs to be, oh, I'm almost done. Everything needs to be in order
And on time.
and on time. Great comment. So we're going to talk about all these things over the next 3 weeks, because you're going to be surprised at the end of these 3 weeks. You're going to have so many 8-letter words in your head that you can just walk around all day saying these 8-letter words. Everybody will know you're a genius. And then if you put T at the end of these 8-letter words, oh my God, they know everything there is to know about tea. And this will almost be true. That's what we're going to focus on. And it's the elements that influence the taste. We've talked about the physical elements. We're going to talk about location, and I'm going to give you specific 8-letter words next week about location. And then each of the steps, what it means in terms of flavor. Is it going to increase floral? Will it decrease floral? Will we get chocolatiness or maltiness? Are we going to get a heavier stringency because we're withering a certain way? We're going to go through all of that over these next 3 weeks. My head is already spinning. All right. So today we have to demonstrate stuff. Let's demonstrate Green-Robed Narcissus. And God, I have such a great leader here to demonstrate all this. Without further ado, Biju.
早上好，你们好。I do 乌龙茶。Okay, 16号
Oh, you do
I-
Wulong?
乌龙
Oh, does it come from cliffs?
可以吃。
Oh, cliff tea, real tea. Did you hear her say real tea? Yeah, of course it's real tea. It's very unique in the tea world. It really is. And this is not costly by accident. It's costly because there isn't much of it. It's costly because of the long process. And when you do this, you should have the right tools. What are the right tools? At a minimum, you should have a clay pot. At a minimum. If you're just entering this world, it's okay to enter with a ceramic pot. That's not a problem. But if you want maximum taste, you get a clay pot. If you want a unique special taste, you get a special Yixing pot. So there's different levels depending on what it is you want to get. And when you're loving this tea, usually give me the most, because it's that good. It's that special. All right. So what you have to have is either an Yixing pot. By the way, you're not brewing, you're observing. An Yixing pot or a ceramic. We demonstrate the Yixing. That's what we use in the shop. We're using 200-degree water. And you notice right away, she poured on top of the pot. Why? Because that's very important that you get that pot up as hot as you can. And not just inside and outside. Oh, tea leaves already prepared. I love this. This is an organized tea master. 6 grams of Green-Robed Narcissus going into the pot. Heated pot, I should say. Shake. Smell. Are you happy? Oh, tea master is happy. We love happy tea master. Let's see. I read somewhere in one of these famous tea books, happy tea masters produce happy tea. Tea master is drawing 200-degree water, and I am putting 3 minutes on the timer because it's just 3-minute initial steeping. And she's pouring the water carefully into, and you notice from a spout so she can control the pour into the pot. And we have a question.
Peter asked, can you talk about the leaf in the photo you shared? Has that been withered?
Great question. I need to see that photo. I need to bring that up in my head. Can you bring that up, Jonathan, so I can see it? Thank you. I'll tell you in a second, Peter. Because有三张，有一个是微雕的，所有的应该是
没有
微雕的。
没有尾雕no no 这个不是尾雕，这是他就是在尾雕过程当中，他给他
thank you
一个
perfect
这个他现在变了，就在编
Yeah
就在 A
Yeah. Okay. So no. Or the answer is yes. That's undergone initial withering, but you see the redness around the leaf, and so that's already gone into an initial shaking. And what they are trying to do. This is a symbol. That is a picture of a leaf that has been successfully shaken, and the edges are red. That's what they want every single leaf to look like. Now, what you want and what you can do, they're pretty good, and they get most of them to look this way, but a few of the leaves are non-cooperative, and they need special attention. But yes, that has been withered, and it's also had the initial shaking to try and get the edge, because 做青, that's the Chinese name word. What that is you're shaking and you're trying to get the green in the middle of the leaf with the red on the outside. Why do they do that? That's supposed to produce the very best flavor. And you show off your skill. If you're any good, when I do these things.
他需要磨场
Yeah, when I do these things, what happens? It's ugly. The red is spots in the middle, at the tip and not around the edges. It's really hard to do. And again, for those of you who went on this trip and picked, it's easy to explain these things. It's easy to show you pictures. Oh, yeah, this seems like it's easy to do. And then when you actually are trying to get these leaves to land on their edges, you know where they're landing instead? They're landing on the floor. It's ugly. It's truly ugly. All right. That's when I do it, is what I'm saying. When the professionals are doing it, that's a whole different thing. Professionals, get it right. Yeah.
You talked about the importance of a clay pot and referenced heat, but what
Yeah.
makes these particular clay pots special, or what should people look for in a clay pot? Are they all the same?
Great question. Are all clay pots made equal? And the answer is no. And why is that the answer? It's the material that the clay pot is made out of. Clay pots can be made from many different types of clay. They can have composites in them. In other words, in the middle layers, they can have things that don't belong. Cadmium, arsenic, all those other unpleasant words. Yixing pots should be 100% Yixing pots. Many, especially of the ones that are made these days, are composites. The old ones, many of those are also composites. How do you know this? I broke somebody's pot, an old pot. And at the time, I wasn't sure whether it was fully Yixing or not. I broke it by accident. Sure enough, composite inside. So for older pots of which you don't know the provenance, don't use them. Just don't use them. Because there's no real good way to tell unless you actually break it. And then break it, you aren't going to use it. Our clay pots come from Yixing. We know they're 100% Yixing. And by the way, when I broke that old pot, what happened was the top fell on one of our pots, which also broke our pot too. When you're an understudy, you got to do the whole breakage thing. And that revealed Yixing all the way through. All right. So look at this color, first of all. That's the first thing you will observe about the Green-Robed Narcissus. Wow, there's real color in this. Wonder what the leaves look like. The leaves are larger. It's a medium to large size bush. And actually, I should be entering the quality arena instead of describing the bush. And I'll do that. And remember, this is 200 degrees. So 200-degree inhalation. Very careful. Okay, I'm looking for astringency on the tongue, looking for aftertaste the next inhalation. We'll see if there's energetics with that. That is, does it influence how I'm feeling? We'll also see flavor-wise and aroma-wise, what is this thing? Okay, I have a pretty good idea. It's your turn to brew. And while you're brewing, watch what the tea master is doing. I'll continue to talk about this plant. This plant, unlike most of the bushes, which grow maybe, I want to say, no more than around 4 feet high. This one is usually 6 or 7 feet high. It's stringy. And so the picking of this is a little bit harder. And you need pickers who are experienced working with this type of plant, because for me, it's a reach to get up there. So if you're height compromised, then you're not going to be able to reach it without a ladder. And you have to know this beforehand. And the leaves actually seem stringy. So when you go to the Wuyi Mountains and you're walking through, you can instantly recognize this variety. All right, you see the tea master has heated the teapot, cleaned it to make sure it's absolutely without any other leaves in it. Put water over the pot, heated it up. Has already put the leaves in it, and it's drying 200-degree water.
Is this a varietal that was hybridized from other plants, if that is the right way to put it?
So the question is, was this hybridized from other plants? So if I answered it the way it was asked, I would say no. But I think the intent was it hybridized from other tea plants?
Yes.
And the answer is yes. And when did this occur? It probably occurred 500 or 600 years ago, and became popular in the Wuyi Mountains. By the way, you've already started this 3 minutes. You start that. And over recent years, it's become even more popular because it's a hardy plant. And it's got, again, this tone taste, which distinguishes it very much from many of the other varietals within the Wuyi Mountains. Yeah.
Jonathan asked, why 200 degrees water, 200 degrees for the water and not boiling water?
Ah, okay. This is a great question. So Jonathan says, normally, not normally, all the time, you guys are extremely precise. So there must be a reason you're not using 212 versus 200. And there is a reason. And there's a reason we're using 200 versus 190, because you see people throughout the industry use this whole range of temperatures. I'm not going to say anything's wrong. What I am going to say is, if you like our flavor, then this is the right temperature. The 212, nobody, even in China, would use that unless you were trying to do one thing. And that is, if you're trying to expose weaknesses of the tea, you use 212. And 212 is a very impractical temperature for most consumers, because trying to drink fully boiling liquid is a hard thing. And you're not in the business of trying to detect defects. And yet 190 is too cool for the Wuyi teas if you want that full experience. If you want the championship experience with the championship teas, bringing them at 190 just doesn't do it. It does, remembering that the saps and all the liquids which contain all the really good stuff which are baked on the outside, it takes some temperature to get that up and going, especially in large cup. If you're doing small cup, maybe there's some different considerations, but with large cup, this is the main consideration. You want that full flavor of what the leaves are bringing. Great question, by the way. And you're still paying attention to the time, of which there's only 25 more seconds. The other thing about this, it's really weird. You're walking through the mountains and you'll see these odd groves, and they're really small, relatively speaking. And it's just like, somebody, at first I thought they were just naturally growing in these places. They're not. I think they've been planted in all these odd places because they'll grow in places that I think are much easier to handle than other tea bushes. That's one of the other reasons I think it's so popular.
That makes me think about climate change and wonder about the experimentation that farmers must be doing, not just the tea scientists in China, but farmers about like, actually, I think I want to try this out over here. They try this varietal out over in this location and see how it responds. Do you think some of that's going on?
This is a great comment, and I'll explain to you why this is completely right on. So the comment is, as a farmer or as a researcher or as a producer,
I give it in.
would you, looking at other people's fields, then think, well, I'm going to experiment? And the answer is yes, because over the years, these experiments they've been occurring for the last 1,000 years, because as farmers see a varietal seeming to grow faster or seeming to produce more, they will go ahead and either try and hybridize it or plant it in new places. So this is why you have not only Fuding white, but you also have Zhenghe white, and that's the name of the varietal, growing in various different places in China because it grows fast, it's highly productive, and in some cases, instead of using it for white tea, they use it for green tea because it just grows very fast. So yeah, there's fluidity within the tea industry. So what does our experience count for in terms of understanding this? When we go out to the tea fields, we can kind of recognize, oh, this is what we've been seeing here for the last 10 years or the last 15 years, or, oh gosh, this seems new. So actually, when we took the group this year to Anhui, and we took them to a Premier's Choice factory, a processing plant, I should say, and we saw the Premier's Choice process in action. It's really cool, really interesting. We saw some upgrades that they've made to the whole process. We also saw a completely different part of the processing area, and it was as if it were very automated. Nothing was going on, but there was all this machinery. So we asked the farmer, because we're not used to seeing this, and he said, oh yeah, I've got a new varietal up here from Fujian that we're doing as white tea. So it is common, especially now that more of this cross pollination is going on. It's not easy. It sounds like it should be easy to do this stuff. Oh, that plant is growing great. Let's just take a cutting or some part of it, stick it in the ground, and farmers, you can't get the best results if you're doing that. remembering that the process to hybridize a new varietal usually takes 20 plus years. And the reason being is you're testing for all these things. Did it take 20 plus years 500 years ago? No, they were kind of willy-nilly experimenting. Yeah.
Peter asks and shares, energetically, I noticed after the second sip that my outlook brightened and my perspective on the day opened up. It had been constricted. Now I'm experiencing a waking up and expansion in my torso.
Love this comment. Peter starts on energetics with this, talks about how this is an expansive tea. It makes him not only feel physically expansive, but also mentally expansive. And it's really interesting because you see a lot of advertisement in China about the cliff teas. And I was just looking at this last night. And actually, it made me laugh out loud because it almost said the same thing you just said, Peter, in terms of, oh, one of the benefits of the Wuyi cliff teas, and this was in Chinese, one of the benefits of Wuyi cliff teas is it's expansive. It helps you expand your mood. It literally said that. And I did laugh out loud because normally I don't expect to see that in a Chinese contextual way. But when you think about China and they're lining up all these different teas and trying them, it's easy to imagine why somebody would say it's expansive. Yeah.
Jennifer asks, can you comment on the photo you sent focused in on the one leaf held with a piece of wood? I'm wondering about the story behind that leaf.
I need
Is
to
that
see
the-
that one again.
Is it the same leaf?
The one you spoke about earlier.
The one you saw earlier.
Oh, the one I saw earlier? Okay. No. The only reason we had that way is to show the redness around
The
the
wilder.
yeah.
They saw in a wilder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that-
I used
this,
to.
this
yeah,
is
used to-
tweezers. This isn't wrapped
Wood.
on wood. It's to show you how, thank you, how a very well done somebody who's handled the leaf very well gets this result. Yeah.
Rob shares, it is robust in its smell and taste. It smells roasty with dark burnt caramel like a toasted marshmallow. Although the taste is deeply roasty with complex sweetness, it is also light on the tongue. It's drying in the aftertaste, feeling relaxed, mind is opening to new possibilities.
So Rob's comment is about, this is a mind-opening tea, feeling relaxed, deep in terms of a roast,
Caramel,
and
marshmallow, toasted marshmallow.
toasted marshmallow, hints of caramel, hints of sweetness. I love the fact that you've captured that sweetness because many people who are inexperienced, when they first look at this, think, oh, this is fully roasted. Well, yes, and what's really going on inside. And you also capture an energetic out of this, not only expansive, but also mellow, easy to drink.
Also notes that it's light on the tongue and drawing in the aftertaste.
That's the other thing. This fools you, but it is light on the tongue. And it's extremely drying as an aftertaste. So you have all of these things. You can almost never mistake that you have this varietal tea because it is almost always roughly the profile that you just said. Yes.
Jonathan observes, the first inhalation is a nose full of floral and a mouthful of mineralized bamboo, though there are deeper, elusive notes just starting to break through.
Oh, this is great. Jonathan talks about initially floral is obvious with bamboo, roasted bamboo, right? Roasted bamboo. and
Mineralized.
mineralized bamboo. Love that description because you can't get away from the fact that this is a cliff tea. Why is it a cliff tea? Because it actually grows out of the rock. And so all those minerals get into the tea leaf. And when you taste it, that's the minerality. And the fact that you captured minerality and bamboo together is perfect. This is what the Chinese would exactly be able to recognize these comments because it's like, oh, yeah, okay, you get it.
Jeremy says all of the above, but also juicy, full mouth, easy swallow.
Oh, this is great. Jeremy adds full mouth, easy to swallow, and juicy. I love her use of juicy because this is definitely, it's almost like a cola. And that's a bad comment. So let's back away from that. But what I mean by that, and what I should have said, it's got, in addition to juicy, I would call it viscous. So it's got a viscosity, a density to this flavor. And I love the fact that you link that with juicy. Yeah, right on, spot on.
Peter says, to piggyback on Jonathan's comment that drilled down into the minerality, there's something about the minerality today that's hitting me as unique.
Yeah, a Green-Robed Narcissus is unique because think about where you're detecting the minerality in your mouth and think about you almost have a minerality in the aftertaste itself, which is very unusual because we think of aftertaste as cooling, sometimes a little minty, sometimes a little sweet. We almost never say minerally, but there definitely is almost a minerality itself to the aftertaste. It is unique. Among cliff teas, this one stands out. You can almost never make a mistake about, oh yeah, this has to be this particular variety. Yeah.
Jen E observes, there is light minerality both in the scent and taste. And I'm with Rob on the scent of marshmallow, though mine is more half charred. The minerality is never overwhelming, though. And I get a subtle but consistent summer cherry flavor in the liquid. It's very comforting.
Oh, I love this comment. So remember, I said right initially, as we're talking about tone, some of you will argue that it's not floral, it's fruity. And I particularly accept Jen's comment about a hint of cherry in this. I get that. And yet I also get the floralness. And by the way, the Chinese would call the floralness almost an orchid floralness. And they have a very floral orchids in China. So there's something specific. But I love the fact that you are talking about this almost as if it's soft. It's like a heavy soft, a comforting soft. And it isn't aggressive with that minerality. And yet there is minerality. And so all of these make it this for people who have a little heavier palate, but who still like subtle taste. This makes this a great tea to introduce cliff teas. It's really a great introduction to cliff teas and some of the subtle complexities without the interference of the minerality. You know, some of the teas over the years, and I've talked to you all about this before, some of them come in right from the box as so edgy that we're afraid to serve them to you. That's how edgy. We know they're really good, but the minerality just jumps up, and we know that that'll cool down. This is metal all the way through. Cool, completely cooled down minerality. Yeah.
Jonathan observes, it is surprising how dry it is in my mouth after a few sips.
It is surprising. Jonathan's comment is about the dryness. The dryness keeps accumulating. It's not just a sip, it's dry, and then you stop noticing. No, it's like it's layering on. And again, that's related to skill of farmer as well as varietal. Yeah.
Peter asked, is there a correlation between the color of the dry leaves and the roast in the flavor?
Oh, that's a great question. Is there a correlation between the color of the leaves, dried leaves, and the roast and the flavor? Yes. So you notice when you looked at the dried leaves how dark they were. The dry leaves, and in fact, I have them in front of me here. When you look at these, you can tell that they're still not, they're certainly not over roasted, but you can tell there's some little bit of green left in them and that they are big leaves. Look at how long these leaves are. And so when you looked at that picture of the leaf that I sent, this could almost be that leaf because it's that long. And this is characteristic of this particular varietal. The other varietals just aren't this big. And some of these leaves, so this farmer is very interesting because some of these leaves, when you look at them, the color is even darker. So this guy tended to do a little bit more. This one's a little darker. And if you can't see that very well, I apologize. Let me kind of stretch it out here for you. That'll make it a little obvious. It's still green, but there's more darkness to that. What that tells you is that the farmer, and it might not tell you this, but I will tell you that the farmer roasted this 3 times and that the farmer wasn't satisfied until that third roast. And we'll talk about this over the next coming 2 weeks. What do these additional roasts do? What is it the farmer is aiming for? Yes.
Rob observes the impact of this tea simultaneously feels exhilarating because it's amazing, but also sad because it's unique and may only be experienced once in a lifetime.
You know, I love this comment, Rob. And he talks about the taste of this being exhilarating, or the feeling or the energy of this being exhilarating. And there's a sadness because he thinks of it as this is a once in a lifetime thing. And I get that. And particularly, it took me a while with the championship teas to let go because I love those things so much. Every year I would say to Biju, oh, let's get more next time, because I never want to let this go. And yet, over the years, I've now adopted another approach to this because I realize I have faith. These farmers are so good, they're going to produce something so special every time. And yes, Dreamscape, I had no self-control, so we'll have Dreamscape for 2 or 3 more years. However, everything else, I've had much better control. We're out of ebullience, essentially, and we will be out of Golagog in short order. And yet, am I worried? Are these farmers all of a sudden going to forget how to do stuff, how to do unique stuff? And the answer is no. The only thing that puts a chill in my heart is global warming. That's the only thing. Everything else, when you talk about the human factor involved in this, I'm okay, because the Chinese farmers in the Wuyi Mountains have proved to me time after time they're going to do something to surprise the socks off of me. All right. Just in case you can't tell, I love cliff teas, especially great cliff teas. Now, all of you like timeliness. I understand you like timeliness. So though I missed on timeliness this morning, I apologize. The next 2 weeks are going to be full of more scientific facts about what's affecting directly the flavor, all the elements. So, like I said, by the end of these next 2 sessions, you will be armed to completely have the language to talk about the science around these flavors. I'm excited. All right, we'll do another Cliff Tea next week. Rainbow Ice. That sounds like fun. And your responsibilities this week, stay healthy. See you next week. Bye-bye now.
Bye, folks.